What if the reason you struggle to connect with women isn't because you're not good enough, but because you're trying too hard to be someone you're not? Deep down, you've always known that pretending doesn't work. Acting confident when you're anxious, saying the right words while hiding how unsure you feel. Trying to impress her when all you really want is to be seen and accepted, it's exhausting. And worse, it never feels real. It's like you're wearing a mask, and even if someone likes what they see, it's not you they're responding to. That's where most men get stuck, not because they lack charm or looks, but because they've been taught to perform instead of connect. But you don't need to be a performer. You need to be a presence. There's a quiet strength inside you. You've felt it before, those rare moments when you're calm, when you're not overthinking, when you're simply being no rush, no chase, no proving, just grounded. That's what women are drawn to. Not noise, but presence. Not flash, but depth. That stillness you sometimes feel, that's your power. And when you learn how to live from that place, something incredible happens. You stop chasing attention. You start commanding it. Right now, the world is loud. Men are being told to be more, say more, do more, constantly performing to win approval. But the truth is, what women really want is someone who doesn't need to win them. Someone who is whole already. Someone who's rooted. Stoicism teaches exactly that. Not cold detachment, not emotional numbness, but self-respect, inner control, unshakable purpose. Imagine showing up not as a man trying to get something, but as a man who already has everything he needs. That's magnetic. The reason this matters isn't just about attraction, it's about freedom. When you stop needing to be chosen, you start choosing yourself, you stop fearing rejection, you stop overthinking every word, you stop trying to be perfect. And that space you create, that peace, it makes women feel safe, seen and drawn to you without even knowing why. This isn't theory, this is transformation. And it begins by realizing that you are enough as you are, not after you get her number, not after you get a text back. Now, you're not here to play games, you're here to grow, to lead, to connect on a real level without losing your center. If you've ever felt like flirting felt fake, like you were pretending to be someone you're not, that ends today. Because what you're about to discover is a way to connect that aligns with who you are. No manipulation, no show, just quiet strength and confident energy that speaks for itself. Stay with this. By the end, you'll know exactly how to flirt in a way that feels powerful, natural, and deeply attractive. Not just to women, but to the version of you you've always wanted to become. This is your reset. This is your edge. And it starts right here. There's a reason most men feel invisible when they try to flirt. It's not because they aren't good enough, it's because they're trying to force what should be natural. They speak, but it doesn't land. They compliment, but it feels hollow. They try to connect, but something's missing. It's not charisma they lack, it's alignment. When your energy doesn't match your words, people feel it, especially women. They sense inconsistency. They sense hesitation. And the moment they do, they pull away, not out of cruelty, but out of instinct, because deep connection only grows in the presence of certainty. Certainty doesn't come from memorized lines or rehearsed charm. It comes from owning who you are, fully, without apology. That doesn't mean being loud. It doesn't mean dominating conversations. It means showing up with a calm, centered energy that says, I'm not here to impress you. I'm here to see if we align. That mindset flips everything. You stop chasing and start inviting. You stop trying to please and start standing in your truth. And the more grounded you become, the more magnetic you are. Most men are taught to reach outside for approval, to gain confidence from attention. But real confidence, lasting confidence, doesn't come from being liked. It comes from being aligned. That means knowing your values, holding your standards, trusting your voice. When you carry yourself like that, everything changes. You walk differently, you speak differently, you flirt differently, because you're no longer reacting. You're choosing. You're leading. This is the foundation women crave but rarely find. A man who knows himself. A man who listens more than he talks. Who observes more than he boasts. Who doesn't chase validation because he already respects himself. That kind of energy creates instant tension, the good kind. The kind that makes a woman lean in, not because you overwhelmed her, but because you intrigued her. You sparked something real, something rare. That's what flirting should be. Not manipulation, not performance, but quiet clarity. Women don't want perfection. They want realness wrapped in strength. And that strength isn't about how much you can say or how fast you can make her laugh. It's about the weight of your presence, the way you hold space, the way you're not shaken by her beauty, her energy, or her silence. Because when you are still within yourself, you become unforgettable to her. You become a refuge in a world of noise. That's what she remembers. That's what she responds to. You don't need to add anything fake to be attractive. You need to remove what's false, the overthinking, the trying, the proving. Strip that away, and your real power surfaces. You already have everything you need to create deep, natural connection. What's missing is not technique, it's truth. And as you'll see, the more honest and grounded you become, the more irresistible you are. Flirting is no longer a game. It becomes a reflection of your strength, and that changes everything. Power doesn't always speak loudly. In fact, the strongest men often say the least. Their silence isn't empty. It's full of certainty, full of presence. And women feel that. They feel the difference between a man who needs to fill the space and a man who owns it. That ownership doesn't come from arrogance. It comes from deep alignment with who you are. It comes from knowing you don't need to entertain to be worthy of attention. You don't need to impress to deserve connection. You simply need to be grounded, intentional, and real. That's the essence of the Stoic frame. A way of being that strips away all the noise, all the overthinking, all the desperate energy that pushes people away. When you adopt this way of life, everything shifts. Your presence becomes your message. Your calm becomes your strength. You stop trying to win affection. You become the kind of man affection naturally flows toward, not because you chase it, but because you've become its source. When a man carries himself with discipline, with stillness, and with purpose, he doesn't need to convince anyone of his value. His energy already speaks. It tells the truth. It says, I know who I am. And when a woman feels that energy, something inside her relaxes. She doesn't have to figure you out. She doesn't have to guess your intentions. She feels safe, seen, and respected. That safety is rare. It stands out. It makes her curious, then drawn, then connected. Flirting is not a skill reserved for the extroverted or the charming. It's an extension of how you carry yourself. And when you operate from a Stoic frame, flirting becomes natural. It becomes effortless. You're not thinking about what to say next. You're not overanalyzing her reaction. You're present. And presence is rare in today's distracted world. That's why it's so attractive. It's not about the words. It's about the weight behind them. And that weight only exists when you're rooted in truth. You've spent too much time questioning your worth, too much time trying to figure out the right thing to say. But the truth is, you don't need a better line. You need a deeper anchor. When you stop being a man who seeks approval and start becoming a man who holds values, everything begins to align. You flirt differently. You connect differently. Because you've changed the frequency you operate on. This is what makes the Stoic approach so powerful. It's not a strategy, it's a state. A calm state that lets your real self shine through. No masks, no pressure, just presence. That kind of presence doesn't just attract women, it commands respect, it inspires trust. And it sets the stage for a kind of flirting that's deeper, more natural, and far more effective than anything you've been taught. The work begins within. And from that inner stillness, something extraordinary starts to emerge, your true magnetic self. The smallest shift in how you carry yourself can create the biggest change in how others feel around you. A single well-placed smile, subtle, calm, and deliberate, can break tension without saying a word. But it's not just about lifting the corners of your mouth. It's about the energy behind it. A smile born from pressure, nervousness, or need feels forced. A smile that comes from grounded peace, from quiet confidence, from genuine curiosity. That's powerful. It signals comfort within yourself. And when you're comfortable in your own presence, others naturally feel at ease in yours. Women notice what's real, they feel what's authentic, and they respond not to effort but to alignment. That's why a calm, intentional smile works. It doesn't scream for attention. It doesn't try to convince. It simply exists like a window into your emotional state. And when that state is rooted, relaxed, and clear, it becomes contagious. It makes her feel safe. It invites without pressure. It opens a door without pushing her through it. And that feeling of safety and invitation is the foundation of true attraction. You don't need to be the loudest person in the room to be noticed. You just need to be the most self-aware. That awareness, when expressed through subtle cues like a controlled smile, speaks louder than words. It says, "I'm not here to perform, I'm here to connect." And in a world where most men are chasing reactions, that level of self-possession stands out like light in darkness. It shows you're not seeking validation. You already have your own. What matters is the intention behind your expression. Are you smiling because you're trying to be liked, or because you genuinely feel content in the moment? That difference is everything. The first drains your energy. The second gives life to those around you. And it's that second type of smile, the grounded Stoic smile, that makes a woman feel like she's stepped into the presence of someone real, someone rare, someone worth knowing. Flirting isn't about pushing forward. It's about holding space. And even something as small as a smile can become a powerful act of emotional leadership. It shows you can communicate calm without words. It shows you're not afraid of intimacy. It shows that you're fully present without needing to take anything from her. That subtle communication is what builds trust, and trust is what makes her want to come closer. This is the new language of connection. Not louder, not faster, not more aggressive, just clearer, more intentional, more aligned with your truth. Because when you operate from that truth, everything you do, even a glance, even a smile, carries weight. It holds meaning. And that meaning is what women remember, not just how you looked, but how you made them feel. That's the impact of real flirting. That's the power of showing up as your calm, confident, grounded self. And it begins with the smallest expressions, shaped by the deepest truths. Eye contact is not about staring. It's about presence. It's the quiet art of letting someone feel seen without invading their space. Most men avoid it because they're afraid of being exposed. They look away too quickly or glance nervously, sending a message of doubt. But when you hold eye contact with steadiness, not aggression, not intensity, but calm intention, you say something powerful without speaking. You say, "I'm not hiding." You say, "I'm here with you, and I'm not afraid to be seen." That kind of eye contact is rare. And rare things are always magnetic. It's not about dominance or control. It's about offering emotional clarity. When your eyes reflect peace, strength, and curiosity, she feels it. She feels you. And in that brief moment, trust begins to form. Not because of what you said, but because of how you made her feel just by looking at her with full awareness. It's that awareness that pulls her in. Not the words, not the looks, not the performance, awareness. You don't need to stare her down or try to impress her with intensity. You simply need to meet her gaze and hold it with calm, not to test her, not to challenge her, but to say with your energy, "I am enough, I see you, and I'm not afraid of being seen in return." That moment, if held with genuine presence, says more than 1,000 clever lines ever could. It builds a bridge between two minds. And that bridge becomes the space where real attraction begins. So many men avoid this level of connection because it feels vulnerable. But that vulnerability is not weakness. It's strength under control. It's power without fear. And that's exactly what a Stoic man carries in every interaction. When your gaze is steady, your mind is calm, and your intentions are pure, you create an invisible pull. She leans in not because you pushed, but because she feels something anchored in you that she wants to experience. This isn't about manipulation, it's about presence. It's about owning the space you're in without shrinking or inflating, just being fully, authentically. And when you can do that with your eyes, without flinching, without faking, you start to influence the emotional energy of the room. You become the calm in the storm, the anchor in the chaos. That kind of energy is unforgettable. Flirting isn't a performance, it's an invitation, an opening. A shared space of curiosity and connection. Eye contact is one of the simplest yet most powerful ways to open that space. It requires nothing external, only internal alignment. That's what makes it so pure, so real, and so rare. When you can look at a woman without needing anything from her, only offering the truth of your attention, you give her a gift few men ever do, the gift of full presence. That's not just flirting, that's transformation for her and for you. Your voice is one of the most underestimated tools of attraction. Not because of how deep it is or how smooth it sounds, but because of how it reflects your internal state. When your voice is rushed, shaky, or scattered, it signals anxiety. It shows you're in your head, not grounded in the moment. But when you speak slowly, deliberately, with measured calm and intention, everything changes. You create space. You invite attention. You command presence. In that presence, trust begins to grow. You don't need to raise your voice to be heard. You don't need to speak quickly to be interesting. In fact, the opposite is true. The man who speaks with calm certainty draws others in because he's not trying to impress. He's simply expressing. That difference is everything. You're not seeking permission to speak. You're choosing to speak because what you say carries meaning. And when you believe in your own words, others start to believe in you. There is strength in stillness, power in silence. But when you choose to speak, let your words match your energy. Let your voice reflect your depth, not your desire to perform. Flirting doesn't begin with clever phrases. It begins with emotional resonance. And the tone of your voice creates that resonance. It either builds safety or triggers doubt. It either opens her heart or makes her defensive. It's not about what you say. It's about how safe and grounded she feels when you say it. Women listen beyond your words. They hear your energy. They feel your nervousness. They sense your need. And if your voice carries insecurity, they'll feel it before they understand it. But if your voice carries ease, if it flows from a place of presence, without force or apology, it communicates something far deeper than charm ever could. It says, I know who I am. I'm not here to chase. I'm here to connect if it feels right. That shift makes all the difference. You're no longer performing. You're no longer trying to say the right thing. You're simply speaking from a place of truth. And when your voice is aligned with your intention, with your calm, with your grounded presence, it becomes irresistible, not because it's loud, but because it's real. That kind of voice is felt, not just heard. Every time you speak, you're shaping perception. You're either reinforcing the man you want to be or diluting it. The goal isn't to sound perfect. The goal is to sound like you, the you that doesn't chase approval, that doesn't hide behind speed or noise, the you that knows his worth without needing to prove it. That's the voice that carries. That's the voice that lingers. That's the voice that makes her feel safe, seen, and intrigued all at once. And once you've found that voice, you don't have to raise it to stand out. You just have to speak from the calm truth within. There is a quiet strength in knowing how to touch, not with urgency, but with awareness. Most men underestimate the power of physical presence. They either hold back out of fear or they rush forward, driven by impulse. But the man who understands the language of touch knows that it's not about taking, it's about offering. A light touch on the arm, a gentle guiding hand, a moment of connection through stillness. These are not random acts. They are reflections of emotional intelligence. When done with intention and presence, even the smallest touch can shift everything. Women aren't looking for someone who grabs their attention. They're looking for someone who respects their space while making them feel safe within it. Physicality, when grounded in calm confidence, becomes a powerful communicator of safety, interest, and control. But it cannot come from need. It must come from centeredness. When you touch from a place of grounded energy, it doesn't feel like pressure. It feels like certainty, like steadiness. And that steadiness invites trust. It begins with being in tune with yourself. If you're anxious, distracted, or uncertain, she will feel it in every movement. Your touch will feel off. It won't land. But when your body mirrors your mind, clear, composed, intentional, your energy becomes magnetic. And touch, when used thoughtfully, becomes a powerful extension of your presence. You're not reaching out because you're trying to close a gap. You're connecting because there's already trust being built. Because you're already enough, with or without it. There's nothing desperate in this. No neediness, no chasing, just awareness, just timing, just feeling the moment instead of forcing it. That's what creates real chemistry, not flashy moves or scripted techniques. Real chemistry grows from how deeply present you are, from how tuned in you are to her comfort, her energy, and your own alignment. That sensitivity is strength. It shows maturity. It shows control. And it shows care. A woman doesn't respond to touch because it's physical. She responds because it carries emotional weight. And when that weight is wrapped in calm intention, it becomes unforgettable. She won't remember the exact moment your hand touched hers. She'll remember how safe it felt, how real it felt, how natural it was. And that memory will linger long after the moment has passed. This is the mark of a man who leads without pressure, who connects without forcing, who flirts not with manipulation, but with depth. And when your body language becomes an extension of that depth, everything changes. You're no longer just seen, you're felt, and that feeling stays with her, not because you tried harder, but because you were more present, more aware, and more connected to what truly matters. This is what separates the men who chase from the men who attract: presence, awareness, intention, and the courage to lead with quiet strength instead of noise. Humor, when used with awareness, is not about being funny. It's about creating emotional space. It's about dissolving tension, breaking through resistance, and reminding someone that life doesn't always have to be so heavy. But most men get it wrong. They joke to be light. They chase laughter like a prize. And in doing so, they lose their grounding. Real humor, attractive humor, comes from presence. It flows from a man who doesn't need to entertain, but who naturally lightens the air around him because he's already free within himself. When you can laugh without needing a reaction, you show emotional power. You show that your happiness is not tied to her response. And that level of self-possession is magnetic. It makes her feel relaxed. It makes her feel safe because she sees you're not wearing a mask and you're not playing a part. You're simply expressing yourself, calmly, playfully, without force. That's the kind of energy that draws people in without pushing. The most attractive humor doesn't come from clever punchlines or rehearsed lines. It comes from being present enough to see the absurdity in the moment, from being relaxed enough to not take yourself too seriously, from being brave enough to let go of control and just enjoy the exchange. It's not about being the center of attention. It's about being the source of ease. And when you become that source, you instantly stand out, not because you're loud, but because you're light. That lightness doesn't mean you're careless. It means you're free. It means you're not bound by outcome. And that freedom makes others feel more free around you. A woman feels it when your jokes come from truth and not tension, when you're laughing with her, not at her, when you're teasing with respect, not trying to prove something. That balance is rare. And because it's rare, it's valuable. Flirting through humor isn't about trying to win. It's about creating a shared space where joy can live, a space where there's no pressure, no performance, just presence. A moment where both people can breathe, relax, and connect without fear. That's what humor done right can do. It can unlock walls that words never could. It can build trust faster than logic. It can make her feel something she didn't expect to feel, safe, seen, and emotionally understood. You don't have to be the funniest guy in the room to do this. You just have to be real, be attuned, be unafraid to be a little playful without losing your grounding. The point isn't the joke, it's the intention behind it. It's the calm energy that delivers it. And it's the quiet confidence that doesn't flinch if it doesn't land. That kind of humor isn't for validation, it's for connection. And when used with care, it becomes one of the most powerful tools in your presence, not to impress, but to invite, not to distract, but to connect. Certainty is not loud. It doesn't shout, and it doesn't seek attention. It doesn't beg for approval or rush to fill silence. True certainty is quiet, still, unshakable. It lives in a man who knows that he doesn't need to be chosen to know his worth. A man who doesn't chase because he doesn't fear being alone. A man who doesn't try to impress because he's already impressed with who he's becoming. That kind of certainty is rare, and it's deeply attractive, because it's rooted in self-respect, not ego. When you carry this kind of energy, everything you do feels intentional. You move with purpose, not performance. You speak with clarity, not for validation. You don't over-explain. You don't overreach. You hold your ground with grace. And in doing so, you show a woman something she doesn't often see, a man who doesn't just want her attention, but who values himself enough not to need it. That's not arrogance. That's alignment. And it creates a gravity that can't be faked. Women are incredibly perceptive. They feel what words can't say. They sense when a man is trying too hard. They feel it when his confidence is conditional. But they also feel it when his energy is clean, when he has nothing to prove, nothing to force, and nothing to hide. That's what builds trust. That's what creates curiosity. And that's what inspires her to lean in, not because you asked her to, but because something in you makes her feel safe to do so. Certainty doesn't mean being rigid. It means being rooted. It means knowing what you stand for without needing to defend it. It means being open, but not easily swayed. It means being kind without becoming weak. This kind of strength invites connection because it creates stability. And stability is what allows deeper attraction to form. Without it, everything feels like a game. With it, everything feels real. The most magnetic men are the ones who trust themselves deeply, who have faced their own chaos, made peace with it, and now carry calm into every room they enter. That calm is rare. It's unmistakable, and it's what women remember. not the words you used, not the compliments you gave, but the energy you stood in. Because when you're certain of yourself, you become an invitation, not a request. You become the experience, not the effort. This is the power of emotional discipline. This is the fruit of inner work. And this is what gives you the freedom to flirt without fear, to connect without clinging, and to express interest without compromising your identity. When you move from this place, your presence speaks louder than your words. And it says what no script can ever say: I'm whole, I'm here, I'm not chasing. I'm simply allowing what's real to rise. That's what captivates, that's what lasts, and that's what makes you unforgettable. Real presence is not just about being in the same room. It's about being fully alive in the moment. Most men are physically present but mentally scattered. Their eyes are there, but their mind is elsewhere. Their body is still, but their energy is restless. They're caught in thought, distracted by outcomes, stuck in self-judgment, and the result is felt immediately: disconnection, unease, pressure. But a man who is truly present, fully rooted in now, radiates something different. He brings peace into the space. He invites openness without saying a word. That kind of presence can't be faked. It can't be performed. It can only come from a man who is no longer run by noise, a man who has silenced the inner chaos and now carries stillness as his default. When you give someone your undivided attention, they feel it. They soften. They lean in, because your awareness tells them they matter without needing to say it. And that is a rare experience in today's distracted world. Presence means you're not rehearsing your next move. You're not calculating your impression. You're not clinging to the past or anxious about what's next. You are here, breathing, observing, feeling. And because you're grounded, she can relax. Because you're not rushing, she feels safe. That calm allows real chemistry to emerge. Not the fake kind based on pressure or fantasy, but the deep kind rooted in authentic connection. When you're fully present, your energy does more than your words ever could. You listen not just with your ears, but with your full attention. You respond not from reflex, but from intuition. You notice things, her tone, her hesitation, her eyes, and you adjust with grace, not analysis. That fluidity, that awareness, that responsiveness is what makes you different. It shows emotional strength. It shows respect. It shows confidence without the need for control. Flirting from presence is not about pushing. It's about allowing. It's not about trying to win. It's about creating space for something genuine to unfold. And when you live in the now, free from overthinking, free from insecurity, you become deeply attractive without effort. Because you're not chasing a moment, you are the moment. And people are drawn to that. They feel safer around it. They feel seen within it. You don't need lines or strategies when your energy speaks this clearly. Your calm is louder than charm. Your stillness is more seductive than swagger. Because what you offer is real. You offer peace in a world full of noise. You offer focus in a world full of distraction. And that makes you unforgettable. Not because you tried to be, but because you were fully yourself right here with nothing held back. That's the power of presence. It commands without force. It captivates without effort. And it connects without fear. Be that man, be here now, and everything begins to shift. Being present opens the door, but leading with intention is what creates direction. A man without direction is easily swayed, easily lost, easily forgotten. But a man who leads, not with force, but with clarity, becomes someone she can trust, someone who brings more than attention. He brings direction, structure, energy, and that energy is what allows chemistry to breathe. Because nothing is more attractive than someone who knows what he wants, moves with purpose, and still leaves room for her to feel free within it. Leadership in flirting isn't about dominance. It's not about control. It's not about trying to be above her. It's about taking responsibility for the space you're creating. It's about guiding the emotional tone with intention. It's about setting a rhythm that allows connection to grow naturally. Most men wait, they hesitate, they analyze, and they end up stuck in passivity. But a man who leads from stillness, who initiates from calm, shows that he's not waiting for permission to be himself. He already is. When you take the lead, you make decisions with confidence. You express interest without fear. You create opportunities for connection instead of hoping they happen. That might look like asking a meaningful question. It might be playfully challenging something she said. It might be inviting her into a shared moment, even just with your attention. These aren't rehearsed tactics. They're reflections of presence turned into action. And that balance between calm and clarity is what creates attraction at a deeper level. Women notice how you lead, not in big gestures, but in subtle energy. They feel it in how you hold eye contact, how you navigate silence, how you carry conversation without pressure, how you invite without chasing. And when your leadership comes from grounded self-awareness, it communicates something powerful. You're not afraid to move forward, but you're also not afraid of hearing no. That emotional detachment from outcome gives you strength, because now your value doesn't rise or fall based on her response. It stays steady, centered, rooted in who you are. Leading with intention shows that you are decisive, but not rigid, attuned, but not reactive, clear, but not controlling. You guide with presence, not ego. And that creates safety. That safety makes her feel more open. That openness makes her feel more alive. And in that aliveness, a connection has the space to become real. That's the purpose of masculine leadership and attraction, to create a space where both people feel more like themselves, not less. When you lead with grace and certainty, you eliminate confusion. You dissolve pressure. You make it easier for her to relax, to respond, to engage. And whether she says yes, no, or maybe, you remain whole, because you weren't leading to get something. You were leading to give something, your clarity, your presence, your energy. And that gift is rare. That gift is remembered. Because it's not about control. It's about creating a path worth walking together. When you lead with presence and intention, your words carry more weight. But even more powerful than what you say is how you say it. The energy behind your words matters more than the words themselves. And this is where the art of flirtation transforms into something deeper. Playfulness rooted in truth. Lightness without losing substance, curiosity without losing control. Most men try to impress with clever lines, rehearsed phrases, or forced humor. But none of that lasts. None of that truly resonates. What does is tone, delivery, energy. When your words come from a grounded place, even the simplest sentence becomes magnetic. Playfulness, when done right, creates space for tension without pressure. It invites engagement without expectation. It brings levity while staying rooted in presence. But playfulness that's forced or needy does the opposite. It triggers resistance, not connection. It drains energy instead of building it. That's why your internal state matters more than your technique. If your playfulness comes from confidence, from inner calm, from not needing a result, it feels like freedom. It feels like an invitation to relax, to laugh, to enjoy the moment with no hidden agenda. Flirting is not about proving your worth. It's about expressing it naturally, without trying to manipulate. It's not about seeking approval. It's about showing you're already at peace with yourself. And that subtle shift changes everything. When you no longer need her to respond a certain way, you start to enjoy the interaction itself. That freedom creates a vibe she can feel. That ease makes her want to stay longer because she doesn't feel pressure to validate you. She feels inspired to reveal more of herself. Your tone should reflect who you are. Calm, open, unattached. Speak like a man who is unbothered by outcomes. Not indifferent, but unshaken. Not cold, but centered. That tone communicates maturity. It shows self-trust. And when you combine that tone with emotional presence, you create a space where attraction can grow organically. Because there's no rush, no desperation, only curiosity, only depth. And that's what turns surface-level moments into meaningful connection. The best kind of flirtation doesn't feel like effort. It feels like flow, like two people discovering each other, with no script, no pressure, no performance. And the man who can lead that flow, who can hold it without gripping, guide it without pushing, is a man who stands out. Because he doesn't just engage her mind. He reaches her nervous system. He calms it. He energizes it. He speaks not just with words, but with presence. You don't need to be the funniest. You don't need to be the most charming. You just need to be real, confident, in silence. Grounded in tone, playful, without attachment. That's where your power is, not in what you say, but in how your energy shapes the moment. Speak like a man who's already enough, and you'll never have to convince anyone to see it. They'll feel it, instantly, and they won't forget it. When your tone carries presence and your words come from a place of peace, the next layer is your body language, because long before you speak, your energy is already communicating. Posture, eye contact, movement, stillness, these are not decorations. They are signals, signals that either align with your words or betray them. When your body moves with intention, when your gestures match your energy, when your presence doesn't collapse under pressure, you radiate truth, and that truth is magnetic. Not because it tries to convince, but because it simply is. Women notice it instantly, not with their eyes, but with their instincts. Confidence that's loud is often insecurity in disguise. But confidence that lives in the body is unshakable. You don't need to puff your chest or take up space unnaturally. You just need to remove what's fake. Release the tension. Let go of the performance, and what remains is something rare, an authentic posture that doesn't ask for approval, or one that says, I belong here, with or without validation. That alone shifts the entire dynamic, because now you're not trying to win her. You're simply being yourself fully, unapologetically, and that creates a gravitational pull. Not because you're trying to attract, but because you're already whole. Stillness speaks louder than most words. When a man can hold silence without shrinking, without fidgeting, without trying to fill the space, it shows emotional mastery. It says you're comfortable in the moment. You're not chasing, you're not proving, you're not shrinking or expanding for anyone's approval. You're just there, solid, present, calm. And in that calm, she feels something she doesn't feel often, safety. Not the kind of safety that protects her physically, but the kind that allows her to drop the mask, to relax her guard, to stop performing herself. That's the moment attraction deepens. When she no longer feels observed, but seen. Your eyes matter more than your words. Not in how long you hold contact, but in the quality of your gaze. Are you seeing her, or are you scanning for reaction? Are you present with her, or are you still caught in your head? Real eye contact feels like warmth without pressure, attention without demand. That balance is powerful. It's rare. And when your body supports your presence, when your movements are relaxed but intentional, when your energy doesn't spike in tension or collapse into fear, everything changes. You don't need to overthink your body language. You just need to let your energy settle, let your breathing slow, let your attention come back to the moment. Because when you're here fully, without hiding, your body knows what to do. Confidence becomes natural, stillness becomes strength, and even the smallest gesture becomes powerful. Not because it's calculated, but because it's real. You don't need to signal value, you need to embody it. And when you do, she won't be drawn to your act. She'll be drawn to your essence. And nothing is more attractive than a man who lives in alignment with his truth. When you stop trying to impress and begin to express, everything aligns. Your presence, your voice, your body, all become congruent. And that congruence is rare. In a world full of masks and performances, authenticity shines like a beacon. But authenticity isn't just about being raw. It's about being refined in your truth. It's about knowing what you stand for and allowing that to come through without needing to justify it. That kind of expression doesn't chase. It doesn't beg. It doesn't plead for approval. It simply speaks. It simply is. And the man who lives that way commands attention without ever demanding it. Most people think attraction is about adding more charm, more looks, more tricks. But true attraction is about subtracting what's false, removing what's insecure, letting go of the fear that says you need to be something more. Because when you stop needing to be anything other than who you are, you tap into a quiet power that can't be taught, only remembered. And that power is clarity, it's presence. It's a still kind of strength that doesn't need to shout. A man with clarity does not fumble in chaos. He does not chase noise. He creates space. And women feel that space immediately. The foundation of all meaningful connection is self-respect, not the kind that boasts, but the kind that sets standards without anger, the kind that walks away from what doesn't align, not to manipulate, but because peace is non-negotiable. That level of self-respect communicates everything. It says, I value myself too deeply to be reduced for temporary attention. I'm not here to perform, I'm here to connect. And that boundary isn't built from arrogance. It's born from truth. Because when you truly value your time, your energy, and your heart, you no longer give it away carelessly. You no longer fight to be chosen. You choose yourself. And that choice changes how you move, how you speak, and how you engage. You stop forcing conversations. You start listening more deeply. You ask questions with genuine interest, not hidden motives. You flirt not to gain something, but to give something. Your presence, your lightness, your essence, that's what makes it powerful. Because now it's not about getting her to like you. It's about revealing who you are so she can decide if she wants to meet you there. That shift puts you in alignment with something deeper than attraction. It puts you in alignment with truth. And truth doesn't compete, it doesn't beg, it doesn't perform. It holds its ground not from pride, but from peace. That kind of energy is undeniable. It draws without pulling, it inspires without pressure, and it leaves a lasting impression, not because you tried to impress, but because you had nothing to prove. You were enough the entire time. Not because she said so, but because you knew. And that knowing is where real power begins. That knowing is where real connection takes root. When you stop fearing silence, you start hearing everything. You begin to notice the subtleties others miss. The shift in someone's tone, the depth behind their eyes, the unspoken signals that carry more truth than words ever could. And when you can be fully present in those silent spaces, you become powerful without saying much at all. Most people rush to speak because silence makes them nervous. But silence in the hands of a grounded man becomes strength. It becomes clarity. And when you master that clarity, your very presence becomes a message, not a performance. A message, one that says, I see you. I'm here. I don't need to escape this moment. Attraction grows not in the loud, but in the still. When your energy is rooted and undistracted, you create a space that feels rare, a space where nothing needs to be forced. That kind of presence isn't just attractive, it's healing. Because in that space, she doesn't feel watched or measured. She feels safe, she feels relaxed, and in that stillness, connection naturally deepens. But most men rush. They try to fill the space with words, validation, or nervous laughter. Not because they lack value, but because they doubt it. And the moment you doubt your value, you give away your power. Flirting isn't about convincing. It's about revealing. And you reveal the most when you're not trying to. When you're grounded in your worth, your energy becomes effortless. You don't try to be funny, but humor flows. You don't try to impress, but you become impressive. Why? Because you're not operating from lack. You're operating from fullness. That's the shift. When your cup is full, your presence becomes a gift. It's not needy. It's not grasping. It's generous. And generosity in energy is magnetic. Not because it demands something in return, but because it asks for nothing. That's what makes subtle flirtation powerful. A slight smile, a relaxed pause, a moment of shared eye contact that doesn't rush to escape. When it's backed by presence, these small things become profound because they aren't forced. They aren't calculated. They're real. They come from a man who isn't afraid to be seen, a man who's not hiding behind charm or clever lines, a man who's willing to be here, now, fully. And that level of presence speaks directly to a woman's intuition. Not her logic, not her checklist, her instinct. And instinct doesn't lie. You don't need to do more. You need to be more present. You need to let go of performing and simply return to your essence. That's where your power lives. That's where your confidence breathes. And that's where your most attractive self already exists, beneath the noise, behind the masks, beneath all the effort. That version of you doesn't need to chase. He just needs to show up, fully, calmly, without pressure, without pretending. Because that man doesn't manipulate attraction. He inspires it. And that kind of attraction doesn't fade, it grows, because it's built on something real. Flirting without intention is noise. Flirting with inner clarity becomes art. The difference is the energy behind it. Most men don't realize that the energy they carry speaks louder than their words. It's felt before it's understood. A man who is desperate to be liked leaks it through every glance, every gesture, every attempt to entertain. But a man who knows who he is, who walks into a moment not to take but to share, creates a completely different impact. He doesn't chase attention. He commands it, gently, by being fully rooted in his own truth. When your self-worth no longer depends on external validation, your energy becomes clean. That's where deep attraction lives. Not in tactics, but in alignment. You can say everything right and still feel wrong if your inner world isn't congruent. That incongruence repels more than any awkward silence ever could. But when your inner and outer world align, when your presence, body language, tone, and intentions all reflect calm certainty, people trust you instinctively, especially women. Because trust isn't built through words, it's built through consistency between what's seen, what's felt, and what's experienced in your presence. Emotional mastery is a rare kind of attractiveness, not because it's flashy, but because it's solid. It doesn't waver with moods. It doesn't react to every little shift in the room. It holds steady. And that steadiness is profoundly attractive because life is chaotic. People are overwhelmed. Everyone is carrying some kind of storm inside. So when you become someone who doesn't add to that storm, but eases it just by how you show up, you become unforgettable. It's not because you say the right things. It's because you become the calm in the noise. This is why your inner world matters more than your outer game. You can't fake depth. You can't trick the nervous system into feeling safe. It knows. And if it senses instability, it pulls back. But when your inner state radiates calm confidence, when your nervous system is regulated, others naturally relax around you. That relaxation is the breeding ground for attraction. Because true connection only happens when defenses fall. And defenses only fall when safety rises. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be real, grounded, aware, honest in your energy, calm in your body, clear in your intent. You don't need lines. You need presence. You don't need approval. You need alignment. That shift changes everything. It's what separates the men who try to impress from the ones who naturally attract. One is chasing a feeling from the outside in. The other is radiating from the inside out. And the difference isn't subtle. It's everything. So step back into yourself, breathe deeper, slow down, let go of performance, let go of outcome. Just be the man who listens more than he speaks, who feels more than he forces, who respects the moment more than he fears it. In that stillness, the real you emerges. And he's enough, more than enough. Most men waste their power chasing what they already have within. They look outside for validation, approval, and meaning, never realizing that the moment they stop reaching and start returning to themselves, everything they've wanted begins to move toward them. A calm man in a world of chaos is rare. A man who does not seek to impress, only to express, creates a different gravity. He doesn't need to convince anyone of his worth. His energy does the talking. His stillness speaks louder than bravado ever could. Because a man who isn't trying to prove he's enough has already won the battle. Most are still fighting. Attraction is not about performance. It's about authenticity. Women don't remember the jokes you told or the lines you rehearsed. They remember how they felt in your presence. Were they seen or were they sized up?